What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's been about 6 months since I uploaded a video. Had a lot of stuff going on, get a new computer, all that other crap. I know you're not here to listen to all that, but in the process of doing all of this and getting everything happening, my original Pittsburgh Series got erased from the PlayStation. So we're gonna be starting a new series here. It's gonna be a MyLeague series. It's going to be very in-depth, very similar to the Pittsburgh Series with a few changes. We're not actually going to be using the MyGM mode. We're going to be using the MyLeague mode. And a lot of the goals and rules and things that I have set forth by the MyGM, I'm going to set forth on myself. And we're going to make this a very, very, very interesting series. So without further ado, let's get into the new rules that I've set for myself for this MyLeague series. It's going to make it extremely competitive and extremely in-depth and also extremely, extremely interesting. So let's jump right into it. So series guidelines. These are guidelines that I created for myself that I felt would make things a lot more interesting and make things a little bit more competitive. So we're going to be playing 82 games. We're going to play every 8th game. So that'll get us about 10 episodes. Will get us through the season. One of the rules I'm imposing on myself is you cannot sign or trade for a player with the 80 overall until after the first trip to the playoffs. So we're going to be trying to turn this into more of a build series, building up players. And the way I see, I watch a lot of NBA. You don't really become a destination for major free agents until you show that you can make the playoffs. And then those major free agents start to look at what they can add to the team for a team that's got a lot of youth and trying to make it into the playoffs. So I think that's a little bit more realistic. Can only make upgrades to core players. Now I'm going to identify core players by putting the players in the trade blocks that's untouchable. So I only have, I can't remember how many spots are there. I think it's about 5 or 6. But if those players are not in the untouchable blocks, they're not core players. So I can't have 9 or 10 core players. I'm only going to be able to have as many core players as in those untouchable boxes. If they are not in those untouchable boxes, they are not core players. We'll get into the upgrades in a minute. You see them down at the bottom. If you trade for a high value young player, must trade your first rounder, your first pick with no protection. So I am playing with the trade override on, and the reason that I play with trade override on is because I don't like that the NBA with the CPU gets kind of messy. You'll have a team that has like Chris Paul that'll sign or they'll draft, you know, the top ranked point guard in the draft, and he'll be like an 82 overall, and they won't let you trade for him. They won't trade Chris Paul, and you just got these two really good players on a team, and it's not really realistic. So I like to try and make sure stuff like that doesn't happen. If it does happen, I like to move those guys to places where they're going to be able to play. Also, NBA2k can be a little bit stingy with the trades. So I do play with the trade override on when I play in my league. But I'm also very smart about how I do it because I don't let the game to be too easy. So I don't force trades for, you know, LeBron for some bench player and a couple first round picks. I won't do that. So if I'm going to be trading for a high value player, young player, somebody from my core, I got to trade my first round pick, and it can't have any protection. So I can't just steal a player from somebody with some weak ass first round pick. Cannot play consecutive playoff games. So the way this works is if I play game 1, I won't be able to play game 7. If that's how it works out. I can't play game 1 and game 2. So I have to pick a game. If I want to skip the first game to see how they do and then jump in game 2 and see if I can win that game, or, you know, if we win game 1, maybe I'll simulate game 2 to see what happens. But I will not be allowed to play consecutive playoff games. So my team building is going to be tested just as much as my ability to play the video game itself. So the goal system. So the playoff bid equals 5 points increase to 1 attribute, and you see now where I got it in the color blue for 1 core player. So with the upgrades, I'm only going to be able to upgrade core players. I can't upgrade just anybody. Player wins a season in award equals 10-point increase to 1 attribute for a player who won the award. So if a guy wins Rookie of the Year, I can't take 10 points and add it to a guy who didn't do anything. It has to be for the guy who won the award. Completing preseason goals equal 5 points increase to our first 2 attributes for all core players. So if I complete a season goals that I set out for myself at the beginning of the year, which you see right here, my preseason goals are win 30 games and player win a year-end award. If I complete both of those, that's going to be 10 points I can use to increase 1 stat for all of my core players. So putting some incentives on winning games, putting some incentive on development, making guys better. And the 2K advancement system is a little wacky sometimes. It doesn't really show you, guys that have high work ethic. They don't really advance the way you would expect them to. Guys with high potential, they advance really, really slow sometimes. So this is going to be my way of nerfing that to make more realistic improvements to players. Now, if I don't get these goals, then I don't get the increase. I just get the increase from whatever they get from naturally playing throughout the season. So these are the new series goals. Our preseason goals are to win 30 games, player win year-end award, and that's what we're going to be going with for the system goals, series goals, and for the system guidelines. Now we're going to get in, take a look at the roster. I did my expansion draft offline, obviously. I don't know if I put it out yet, but we're going to be playing with the 2 expansion teams, 2 legendary teams that were a part of the NBA before. The Seattle Supersonics are returning to the West Coast, and we return with the Cincinnati Royal City East Coast, which is the team that I'll be controlling and building. So with our first pick in the draft, we took Rajon Rondo. The reason I took Rajon Rondo is because I feel like he's a great point guard. He's a great floor general. And with the type of roster and what we're trying to accomplish, you want to have a guy who's tested. Our goal is to make it to the playoffs. I'm not a big tanker, so I like to be able to build. But with the way our roster is set up, being to the playoffs may not be an option. So you got a guy like Rajon Rondo who can kind of set the tone. He's a great ball handler. He's got lateral quickness, and his passing are his 3 main attributes here. At the top, you see he's got 15 badges. So not only am I going to be using him in a capacity to run our offense and be the leader of our team, he's also going to be a guy that I'm going to use as a mentor for young players to try and siphon some badges off of him, to try and make it really, really worth it. He's only got 1 year on his deal, $9 million, so we'll see how he does. He's 32 years old. He may want to be a guy who wants to play for a winner to compete for a championship, so he may not want to stick around after this year. So we're going to try to get everything out that we can. Next up is we got Trey Burke. He's just a guy who can put the ball in the hole. He's a flat-out scorer. He's going to be coming off the bench. He's going to be Rondo's backup. As you can see, he's really good at stretching the floors. He's got a good mid-range shot, which means he's going to be really, really solid, and he's going to be a major threat off the pick and roll. I mean, to be really solid at the pick and roll, you got to be able to hit those in-between shots when you come off the screen and get in that little gap between the center and whoever's guarding you and whoever's getting screened. So he's got a B mid-range jump shot as well as a B three-point shot. So he's somebody that we can look to for instant offense off the bench. And our third point guard we picked up is Trayvon Duval out of Duke. Pass first point, vertical ball handling and speed. I am a Duke fan. I watched him a lot. I think he's got very, very high potential. He's got the ability to be a really good point guard, 6'2", 189, only 20 years old. So picked up a young guy that we can kind of build around, and maybe one of our core players, maybe not. We'll see how the first couple weeks of the season go and see how they're developing, and we'll see how things go from there. All right, moving next up, we go moving into the shooting guards. First on our list is Avery Bradley. He's a guy we picked up. I think him and Rajon Rondo play very well together. Avery Bradley's an established veteran in the league. He's a really good perimeter defender. Two-way guard. He's got 4 badges: lateral quickness, mid-range, and speed. As you can see, he's got a mid-range and as well as a B- in the 3 and B in the perimeter defense. So he's also a guy that's going to be able to play well in pick and rolls because he has that mid-range game, and I think him and Rondo's game will click very well together. Next up is we got Damian Dotson. 24 years old, 6'6". He gives us that size on the perimeter that we lose with Avery Bradley. He's got 1 badge, sharpshooter, mid-range speed and acceleration. In today's NBA, you got to be able to have guys that knock down shots. He's not a great defender, but he is a dude who brings instant offense off the bench, and I think he's so different from Avery Bradley that it makes it solid to have him coming off the bench behind him because he can do the things that Avery Bradley's kind of do it all, but he can really knock down shots, so we can bring him off the bench for some instant offense along with Trey Burke. And last, we got Hawkins, shooter, 2 badges, lateral quickness, speed, and vertical. Another young guy, 20 years old, 6'5", 225, a little bit of a bruiser, bigger. He's going to be one of those guys that we're going to be putting a little bit of time into to see what we can get out of him, and hopefully he can develop and get some good reps in, and he'll play under Avery Bradley as his mentor and see if we can't turn him into a solid 3-and-D guy. All right, next up we got the small forwards. Got Thabo Sefolosha. Everybody knows this guy's name. He's been around the league for a really long time. 34 years old, 6'7", wing defender, 4 total badges. He's got steals, lateral quickness, and vertical. He is definitely going to be our 3-and-D guy to the max. As you can see a trend here, we got two really good wing defenders who can knock down shots. Tabo's not really as versatile as Avery Bradley is offensively, but Tabo can play a little bit of that small forward and power forward position. Being at about 6'7" with the new NBA, he can kind of survive down there in the paint. So if we're looking for to kind of stretch the floor, to add another wing player to the rotation to kind of keep the defense honest, Tabo Cephalosha is going to fill a lot of the gaps for us as a mentor as well as a knockdown shooter and defender. Next up, we got Cedi Osman. Took him from Cleveland in the expansion draft. He's a really young guy, 6'8", 23 years old, sharpshooter. Strengths of lateral quickness, mid-range, and three-point shooting. Not a very good perimeter defender, but he's not bad. He's a guy that's got really good upside. I can almost guarantee you that Cedi Osman is going to be one of our core players going forward. I think he's got high potential, and if we can get him up to par and sustainable on the defensive side of the ball, and he can maintain where he's at offensively, he's a guy that we can really look at cracking our rotation and being a starting small forward here in the future. And to round it out, Jerome Robinson. Another young guy, 21 years old, 70 overall. He's a really good shooter, B- in mid, B- in three-pointer. Skill shooter is his skill set, one total badge. He's got ball handling, lateral quickness, and mid-range. So he's a guy that's another blank canvas that we're going to put some time into. As you see, we still got him under the rookie deal. Anxious to see. We're going to have to I don't know much about him. We're going to have to get him out on the practice court, see if he's got the bounce to compete with some of the more athletic small forwards in the league. Now moving on to the power forwards, we got Jordan Bell. Young guy, really athletic, interior defender. He's got 3 badges, blocks, stamina, and layups. He's going to be our utility guy. He's not a great shooter. He is a guy who does hit the glass very hard. One of the main reasons I picked him is that I'm pretty sure, I haven't checked his badges, but he might have championship DNA because of him playing with the Warriors. He does play a little bit of power forward and center. He's an undersized guy at 6'9", but if you've seen him play, you know he's all hustle, he's all energy. He's a guy who can get out there in the open break and catch alley-oops. He can block shots. So he's somebody I felt like would really fit our team pretty well with our young core. And Jordan Bell is probably going to end up being one of our core players as well. And for his backup, we picked up Christian Wood. We got offensive-minded forward, blocks, layups, and three-point shooting. You got to have the bigs who can stretch the floor and keep the defense honest. You don't want them to build a wall in the middle of the paint. And, you can't get guys like Rondo in there to make, the drive and kick, because Rondo doesn't have a super lethal jump shot. So we got to have guys that can knock down open shots. So we picked up Christian Wood, another young guy, 23 years old. And he's a guy that we can really see what he has because of his ability to shoot the ball. And he's got great size at 6'10". So we'll see what we got out of him. And last but not least, we rounded out with the centers, the big guys in the middle. Our starting center is going to be Myers Leonard, formerly of the Portland Trail Blazers, 7'1", 255, 3 badges, face-up center, layups, rebounding, and vertical. He's a guy who can really jump out the gym. He plays well. Hopefully that athleticism can translate to a little bit of protecting the rim on defense. But as you can see, one of the main reasons we got him, he's got that A- 3-point rating. Got to keep the defense honest. You got to have big guys who can shoot in the new NBA. 2 years, $10 million, so he's going to be with us for at least the next 2 seasons. 26 years old. He's moving into that area to where he's got to start bearing fruit with his age. He doesn't have the safety blanket of being a young guy anymore. He's got to start producing and showing what he's actually made of. Back up, we got a Kyle O'Quinn, tenacious rebounder. 7 total badges. Strengths are block strength and rebounding. He's got a solid mid-range jumper. Is not a guy who's going to be shooting from the outside, what you see with that big fat F in the 3-point spot, but he's got great inside defense. Probably not a guy we're going to be able to rely on and defending in pick and roll with that perimeter defense being at a D-, but rebounding and shot blocking is something we need from him. 6'10". Might be able to get a little bit of pick and pop out of him because of that B mid-range shot. We'll work around with him in practice and see what we can get. And he's going to be the backup center for Myles Leonard. And to round it out at the end of the bottom of the roster, we got Deontay Davis, 7-footer, 237, 21 years old, 1 badge, interior defender, blocks, layups, and reboundings are his strength. Not a great shooter. He's not a bad mid-range shooter with that C+, but he's not going to be knocking down any threes either. The inside defense is where it's at. The rebounding is where it's at. So he's going to be a guy very similar to Jordan Bell, but he has the size to make an impact and help us compete on the defensive end and also on the offensive glass. And that's going to do it for the roster here. Like I said before, this is going to be a MyLeague expansion. We're going to make sure we get it done in try to get it between 10 and 11 episodes to finish out the season, the regular season. That's not including playoffs. I think we're in for a fun ride. We got a lot of stuff going on planned, what I got planned for this series. As you know, like I said, my Pittsburgh Hammer series ended up getting deleted, so this is going to be replacing that. I uploaded the last episode that I did up on the channel, so you want to go ahead and take a look at that. So yeah, thanks for watching. Stay tuned here. We're going to be being more consistent with the episodes, and we're going to see if we can't build the Cincinnati Royals back into the powerhouse that they used to be back in the old NBA. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you got any comments on how you want to run things here, please leave it down in the comment box, and send your boy a like. It'll really help me out. Appreciate you watching. Peace.